Hey everybody, welcome to the Free at Last podcast. I'm Mick.
And I'm Tammy.
We're coming to you live from the Appalachian Mountains right here from the home of Eastern Kentucky. Very excited about tonight's podcast. Let me get this music off here. But yes, very excited about tonight's podcast. We have a very special guest when he clicks back on here.
Yeah, there he is.
There we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we're going to introduce Brother Tom Trent.
Amen.
How you doing? I appreciate you having me on. I'm doing well. I appreciate you having on, and sorry for all the crazy technical difficulties, but at least we're on, right?
Yeah, you're fitting right in. It's like we know nothing but technical difficulties. But yeah, I wanted to start out. I just wanted to let everybody know that Brother Tom, I actually sought him out for this interview because God uses him like in a political arena, and I thought it would be cool just to talk to somebody that's involved in politics and get their take on faith and politics and what, because some people believe that Christians shouldn't be involved in that stuff, so they say. But we're going to discuss that. And Brother Jim, if you want to take us back, where did your faith in Jesus start? Was you raised up in a Christian home, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. My late mother, she made sure my younger brother, there's just the two of us. He's 5 years younger than me, and wanted to make sure that we were in church and Sunday school as often as we could be. So we went to the Clearfield Tabernacle for years, and then when I got a little bit older, I kind of got away from going, and was very involved in high school with different things, sports and whatnot, and then went to college, and same thing. Just kind of fell away from going. I had not been saved or baptized, to my knowledge, unless I was, dedicated as a baby or something. As we know, that's not the same thing till you get older. But in college one day, I was watching, I think it was CBN, and they had Pistol Pete Maravich on there, and he was for those of you who don't know, he was. Younger folks don't know who he is. The older folks will, like us. Not the young lady, but the two old guys on here. But that's it. Definitely silver haired. But he was one of the best college basketball players to ever play the game, and holds all kinds of records. And he was scoring 60 points a game when there was no 3-point shot. And anyway, my dad always told me about him. He was a little bit ahead of me, and I never did get to watch him live or anything. But he was on this show, and he had a alcoholism, painkiller abuse, and different things. He had a lot of injuries when he got to the pros, and he shared his testimony that night. And he ended up giving his life to the Lord, and started going out and having basketball camps and speaking engagements to young people. And so while he was on there that night, he asked, I think I was a junior, maybe sophomore, junior in college. I was at home, and he and the host asked the sinner's prayer, right? And asked people to bring Jesus into the heart. And I had the prayer with them, and definitely felt the Holy Spirit. But then being in college and involved in a fraternity and different things, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. Didn't follow through. So fast forward several years past that, I'm married, and my then wife and I were trying to have a baby, and we tried 3 or 4 different times and had, unfortunately, 3 or 4 miscarriages. And then 9/11 happened, and I was working that day, working for the city of Moorhead, actually, in Parks and Recreation. I used to do, before I was mayor way years ago, before I was mayor, I was did the all the leagues. I kind of ran all the leagues youth and all that. So I was going around to different schools that day, and I was listening to it live when it was happening on the
Mm.
radio. So when it happened and everything happened as we know, it really, really hit me hard.
Yeah.
Some things started to trickle in. We found there's some folks from this area were affected. One of the guys I uh, went to school with, Kyle Kreger, he actually was going to work that day, and for some reason he had to come back out of the towers, and he just missed it, and so
Yeah.
and that got me thinking, how many of those, I forget what it was, what 2 or 3 thousand people, maybe as many as four. How many of those people that day thought that was going to be the last day they were going to be on Earth?
Yeah.
Right.
I guarantee you, none of them did, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that got me really thinking. And so, I told my wife, and I said, I got to do something. So I called an old pastor. You two may have heard of him. He's been gone. He went to the Lord several years ago, but Pastor Harmon. Did you ever know Pastor Harmon?
I don't believe
Uh,
so.
he wasn't a very tall fella, and Jay Harmon, great guy, and he lived to be in his 90s, and
Mm.
he had a testimony, craziest thing I've heard in a long time. But I went to his house because I was going back to the tabernacle a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and went to his house, had prayer, and gave my heart to the Lord. And then the following 9/11 was on Tuesday, and the following Sunday we went down to Stony Cove and
Mm-hmm.
got baptized.
Wow.
And and my son at the time, my stepson, his father's a Muslim, and at the time, you know how they do, come on in, the water's warm. Anybody else? And he was
Yeah.
10 or 11, and he gave his heart to the Lord, and he was
Yeah.
Wow.
baptized. So
Praise the
what a
Awesome.
Lord.
day! What a day, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sorry I'm taking up so long, but
Oh,
it's
you're fine.
there,
Yeah.
there's a method to the madness here. And then we ended up getting pregnant with our daughter, and everything was fine with the pregnancy. Thank the good Lord, and she's healthy, and she's 22 now. And but when we went, and you go to the gynecologist, and they're trying to figure out things, and we were asking them about the date. Well, conception was shortly after I got baptized and
Yeah.
saved. To
Yeah.
the
Wow.
best of that. So because we'd had trouble with having the other ones who are now in heaven, we named her Zoe, which means which the Bible says means life. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
so that's my testimony there, and I've been doing everything I can to promote the Lord since then, and obviously not perfect, obviously sin and slip up, but
Yeah.
um, I'm very thankful for um, to have Pastor Harmon
Yeah.
and some other pastors there who were ready. Anytime the drop of a hat, they're ready. And um, my family since then, my father's he's become. Um, he always was a Christian, but he's become more in the walk for the last several years. Actually, since his granddaughter was born, and my
Yeah.
brother, and now my brother and his family. And so, it's a good feeling to know that some of us, we know friends and family who have to fight their own family
Right.
Yeah.
to to to
Yeah.
to, to, to do to do what they're supposed to do, and walk in the Christian walk. And it's great when you have that camaraderie with your family, and it just makes that bond stronger, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does. And it's like we're not perfect. We've not you know our hope is heaven. And by just our sinful nature as humans, we're not perfect, but we're
No.
on the journey, we're on the pathway. And Mickey and I have always said that it's about relationship over religion.
Yeah.
It
and
is.
and that's what he wants us to do, is to have that relationship with him through Jesus Christ. And
Amen.
And so, with you being in a position that you have influence within a political community, how do you feel like that is important as we go on in the days of the future?
Well, you know, to me, it's important to have the faith that you have because it's a tough position.
Yeah.
Politics, and this is not because I'm somebody strong or anything, but politics are not for the faint of heart.
Mhm.
Especially, you see all the stuff on the news with the national politics, but I tell you what, when you're in your hometown, and you know a lot of people, uh, sometimes that can be even tougher. I think
Yeah.
I had a when I was mayor, somebody had given me uh, this plaque, or not a plaque, it was actually a picture, and I think it was Lyndon B. Johnson said, when days of when days of being a president weigh heavy on me, I think to myself, it could be worse. I could be a mayor. So that's and so and that's making light of it. But you're right. I think
Yeah.
having the faith to not turn to anybody else, or a drink or substance or anything, to be able to have the strength of God, and to be able to you know just get through that process, um, is comforting. Now, we he never ever said we wouldn't have trials and tribulations, and
Yeah.
he just the thing is, it always resonates with me in any kind of trial tribulation I go through, or my family goes through. you know he's not going to get a magic wand and do this and that like some people think it is. Now, he can heal you anytime he wants, obviously,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
he says, I will never leave you nor forsake you.
That's right.
Amen. That's right.
Not sometimes, not every now and then, never. And that's
Amen.
that's 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 what I think. At the end of the day, you know, having that, knowing that, because nobody else can give you that promise.
Yeah.
Right.
Even your spouse, your best friend, your parent, your child who loves you more than anything in the world, no one can give you that promise and fulfill it.
And I think it's like, as you were talking, it's like, would you say that, like, being a Christian, I mean, obviously you get a target from the enemy on your back when you become a Christian, but like, when you was a mayor and was a Christian too, would you say that there was even more heat put on you because you were in leadership? And
That's go ahead.
and the reason why I ask that, because it's like, I think it's important for every believer to know that the reason why you are attacked is because what's on the inside of you, or who's on the inside of you.
There's a I have to share it with you, and I wish I'd have thought of it. I'd have popped it up here, but somebody shared, or I found it on Facebook, somebody else's, and I reshared it, and it talked about, um, given how hard the enemy goes after you, how precious how precious your soul must be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And he doesn't go after the people he's already got. He goes after the people who would be a trophy to him, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not anything special about that person, but a trophy to him is get Christians to turn away from God, and
Yeah.
that's all he wants, is just to gum up the works. But I'll give you an example. When I was mayor, I think it was my second year, maybe third year, we had the whole gay marriage thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you remember,
Yeah.
with our clerk, our county court clerk, and that was an interesting time. It was something where you know, knowing knowing where Miss Davis was coming from, and knowing her background, that was something that Christians could empathize with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but it gets tricky, and I'm not saying God can't overcome tricks. He can, but it gets tricky when you start bringing in law of man,
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
and you have to abide by the law of man. I know it wasn't necessarily referring to that. The passage was more referring to taxes. You know, passage where render unto Caesar what is Caesar's,
Yeah.
and so what I try to do is I try to govern, with the Christian principles
Right.
Yeah.
that get me through the day. You've got things out there that that was a tough thing to go through because people would come to me and say, "What do you say? What are you going to do about it?" And I said, "Well,
Yeah.
you know, first of all, as far as the hierarchy goes, that's a county official, and you have to go
Mhm.
through all that." And everybody says, you're making excuses," but it's one of those things where I like to think that the way I carry myself, again, fallible daily,
Yeah.
mess up daily, sin daily, right?
Yeah.
But the way I like to carry myself and hope I carry myself is to be a reflection of the fact that I'm a Christian. So I think most people knew that, and they were trying to pull me and others into that
Yeah.
Right.
situation,
Exactly. Yeah.
but you had to go by. It's a slippery slope, um, and so
Ew.
bless you. That was one of the
Thank you.
toughest. That was probably the toughest thing. That,
Yeah.
and we unfortunately, before I left, we had if you all remember, we had the young man that got swept away in the flood water, and we
Yeah.
Yeah.
looked for him, and
Mhm.
finally that was just horrible. And you call upon God every day, and please Lord, help us find him, and you know and then once it got to the certain point where you realize, well, it's been so long, is it now a recovery? The
Mhm.
parents' worst nightmare. It's not a rescue anymore. We don't
Right.
know, but faith was important there. And here's the thing, you pray for that he's going to be okay, and you pray that God heals him, and you pray that God protects him, and you pray that we find him. Well, all those things happened. He
Mhm.
was, he went to heaven.
Mhm.
He was whole again. He was healed. God took care of him. It just wasn't on our side of
Right.
heaven that
Yeah.
causes us to say God let us down. No, no, he didn't.
Right.
He didn't.
Mhm.
It was a tragedy, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
that's the way you try to look at it that way. I think that's really the only way you can, if you're a true Christian, because that's what you want to believe about yourself, right?
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Absolutely.
How many of us have friends? I've had several, unfortunately, gone to several funerals here lately, and you pray for that person to be healed. And in your heart, if you really, really know, the person's going to be healed either way.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Either they're going to be healed here, or they're going to be healed and they walk into heaven. So
Yeah.
this still doesn't make our fleshly emotions any better. But
Yeah.
I think if you go about that, but
Mhm.
um, that was one example. But um, you got to remember, like you said, people are constantly attacking and trying to um, catch you not being a Christian. Wait a
Yeah.
minute, that's not what a Christian would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
The word that
so
the word that comes to mind is discredit, because they're going to try to find every little thing to discredit. And it's like God has your back. He's not going to let you fall. And yeah, the road's going to get a little bumpy, and you're going to have obstacles, but like you said, at the end of the day, when you know within your heart that Jesus is your Lord and Savior, it's like He will give us what we need to get through these tests and
Amen.
trials.
that's right. That's exactly right. People say, "Well, I prayed that, help me through this, Lord," and He didn't listen to me because the storm came anyway. Yeah, but He got you
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
you know. So those are the things that and we know this. We all have really hard days.
Mhm.
Somebody you lose very close to you. It's a hard day, and sometimes we just sometimes we question things. But if we always go back to know, we know that we know that we know that God's got us in the end. Um, that's because you know he's the only one that we ever have to impress, and we don't even have to impress him. We just have to trust him. That's all he wants
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
to trust him and to have faith in him. And um, that's a whether you're in politics in a local in a small town, or you're just a person walking around with another job. It's like that every day for all of us.
Right.
So I kind of have a interesting question that I feel like the Holy Spirit just uh, kind of just dropped into my heart to ask you. Like, were you been a mayor before? How would you suggest that we as believers pray for who's sitting in that seat right now? Because like I know you've been in it. Like us as believers, how because we're commanded to pray for whoever it is in there, no matter what party. So how would you recommend that we as believers on either side pray for who's in the seat right now?
Well, that's a great question. That's a great question, an important question. When you're a mayor, your first response, and or judge executive or whatever. But in this particular
Yeah,
case, when you're a mayor, your first job is the safety of your citizens, right? The first
yeah,
job,
Yeah.
and then you can go on down from there. So, I'd always want people to pray for me that I make the best decision I can for our people, for our
yeah,
citizens, and with protecting them first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People don't realize. Well, I told people before, they said, "What's the toughest part of the job?" And I said, "How much time you got?"
yeah,
But 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 in all jokes aside, think about it. If you're a mayor and when you go to bed at night in this particular town here, I know Olive Hill's a little different, Grayson's a little different, but in our size town, you could go to bed knowing that you're responsible for 15 to 20 people who are carrying deadly weapons
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and who have certain rights to use those deadly weapons. And you go to so you go to that's one of the things where I always would pray that 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 we didn't have murders, and we didn't have those things. We didn't have things that could hurt people. And even though we can't control individuals, I think that's one of the biggest things is praying to do whatever you can as a mayor or someone in a position of power to, number one, protect your citizens.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then the other thing is have always pray for strength to make the best decision you can, at the time and and with the information you have. Um, and you're not making the best decision for me. I'm not making the best decision for you two. I'm making the best decision for our community as a whole.
Right.
yeah,
And sometimes people want you to say, they want you to pick and choose, so to speak. They won't say it, but to me, that was always, help me, give me the strength and the courage to make a decision that's the best for everybody, um,
Mm-hmm.
or the town as a whole. Um, just strength to get through the day, to make sure that mayor's responsibility, uh, a mayor council's responsibility is for voting on the laws and ordinances and a budget and creating a budget. And the mayor's job is the day to day. So think about
Mm-hmm.
everything that you do, your streets, your fire, your garbage, your police, just, all the different activities you do. That's a large responsibility.
yeah,
And, and sometimes it can be, I'm telling you, sometimes it can be overwhelming if there's
Yeah.
anything going on with when I when I was mayor, my first 6 months, we had a snowmageddon. It was a it was
Yeah.
this was 2015, spring of 2015. We had a couple of fires. We had a fire at Guardian. I mean, it was crazy the stuff we had. A flood, and those are things that you know they're out of your control, but you need strength and you need people to pray for you to have the strength to how are you going to react to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What can you do to, you know, help people, and what can you do um, to make sure that the electric's still going.
Mm-hmm.
There's water. So those are things that don't happen very often, but when they do, natural disasters, or a building burns downtown or something like that, something major, you to be able to make that decision, have the peace about it, and not
Mm-hmm.
rush into something and make an emotional decision. Um,
Right.
Knowing that you got people praying for you. Lord, give him, wisdom, give him patience, give him, let him see the big picture, let him see what he needs to do. And I always had people that would call me. Several would always say, "Praying for you today,
Yeah.
praying for you
Yeah.
today." Never asked me, never said, look past this, or don't pass this, or we want this. Praying for you. And
Yeah.
you could, when anybody, you got people that tell you that. What a comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
What a comfort.
encouragement. Yes.
Because that's
Mm-hmm.
coming right from God.
Yeah.
God told him to pray for you, just like God put it on your heart to ask me that question.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That definitely wasn't on the agenda.
So you are in the running for the mayoral voting, and that's in May of 2026, correct?
Well, the way it is in Moorhead and counties, cities like ours, the way the voting is, there's a primary only if there's more than two people running,
Okay.
because it's nonpartisan, so you don't have the typical two-party primary.
Okay.
So all city offices, all elected city officials are elected, nonpartisan. Although in small towns, people kind of know, you know, they can kind of guess by the way you hold yourself, by the way you carry yourself, by the way you things you put on social media and whatnot.
Mhm.
They can kind of ascertain what, but it being nonpartisan, if there's three people or more, then they will be primary, and it'll get it down to two, and then those two will run in the general election in November. So
Okay.
right now, I'm the only one officially signed up. There's been some rumors and whispers about who's going to sign up as well. The last day to do that is January 9th. So
Okay.
we may have to wait till then to see, but yeah, it'll be in the general election will be November 2026.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. Well, brother Jim, it's been awesome talking to you. If you ever want to come back on, you have an open invitation here. If anything you ever want to
Yeah.
talk about.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. This was when you reached out. I wanted to do it last week or the week before, and of course things happen. So I appreciate you hanging with me, and I enjoyed
Yeah.
this. And as you can see, I'm very backward and shy and reserved. So I appreciate you pull,
Oh, you
pull that out of me.
you fit right in.
Oh.
Well, I learned something about Tammy tonight. That was great information. Tammy
Yeah.
shared with me, for those listening, that her father and my father went to school together, and she told me his name, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I know who that is."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there you go. You literally learn something every day,
Yeah.
right?
And
I
Hey,
may
we
forget. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I it's like, I know you were mayor and I know you had position in the county and all that, but it's like you are the DJ. Like you know how
Yeah,
to
yeah.
spin the track. And so I told Mickey, I
I,
said he probably knows every title and album from like
well, I told her the party you DJ'd for St. Clair. My cousin Charlotte Johnson.
yes.
I told her I said, man, I said it'd be awesome if that DJ would play "There's a Little Girl,"
Yes. Yes. And
and
that
you
gives me an
did.
idea. Yeah, I did. That's right. I remember that.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's one of those things. I've been doing that. I'm 58. I'll be 59 in April. I've been DJing off and on. I started when I was 17. I actually DJ'd
Wow.
a friend's, took my home stereo system down to a
Yep.
friend, and set up my home stereo system for his son's, I think it was 12th birthday or something. And I got I got the bug, and I've done it off and on that many years now. Really, a lot the last 20 years, but off and on before that. And I tell everybody, I said, I DJ, for three reasons. Number one, I can't sing outside of the shower. Um, I can't play an instrument, and the most important thing, and Mickey will agree with this. I have a face for radio. So those are the three things that help me.
Well, one of the things that let's see, what was it I was going to ask? It with the technology, it's like you don't have to pack around your
Oh
like
my gosh,
LPs and tapes. Now it's all digital, man.
it's like Stone Age. When I started back then, I had two milk crates, and one milk crate was the 33 and a third album size, and the other milk crate was 45s and cassettes.
Yeah,
And then when cassettes kind of overtook that, it was like, oh my gosh. And then CDs, like, oh my gosh,
right. Yeah,
space age. And now I carry, I've got probably, I'll show you this. I've accumulated music over the years, a terabyte,
right. Yep.
of MP3s and this, and that's like, and the speakers. And oh yeah, it's gone. It's the technology has been. I have to say, some people say technology's not good. They like the good old days. No, for me to have to drag that
Right.
stuff around now,
Yeah.
at almost, when I was 20, I didn't care, but almost 60. How light can I make this? How many? I
Right.
want to I want to make one trip, not five. Those type of things. But
Yeah. Well, you think about like just in our generation, we've seen it go from what 8-track to technology on digital form, and it's just like what a time to be alive, you know?
I'm
it's
I'm
it,
I'm afraid that AI is going to wipe out us musicians.
Well, that's funny because every day it seems like somebody comes up with a new, fake music, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, you're right. That's why I hope that doesn't happen because, especially here in Eastern Kentucky and Moorhead, and the traditional music and all that stuff. That's
Right.
something that always needs to be AI. You can't you can duplicate sounds maybe and beats and those things, but you can't duplicate soul.
That's
Right.
right. That's right.
Amen.
The soul behind a BB King song, or
Oh
the
yeah.
soul behind an old Ralph Stanley song. You
Yeah.
can't. You can maybe duplicate the sound, but not
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 the
not
art.
what, and not when you sing it like that. And with
Yeah.
that, I agree. That's one of the things that I do. I believe that's something hopefully that will never die. And but yeah, you talked about 8 tracks. My first car I had, it had an 8 track player in it, and I thought I
Yeah.
was the coolest guy on the block when I
Yeah.
bought one of those Craco things that look like an 8 track player, Mick, and you put your cassette in it,
Yeah.
Yes.
and it would
Yeah.
play through the 8 track. I'm like, what kind of voodoo is this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Alrighty,
I've
brother.
enjoyed it. Thank you all so
Yes.
much. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Alrighty,
Jim
brother.
Tom.
And if I don't talk to you before, then y'all have a blessed Christmas, and I appreciate your prayers, and I'll be praying for your podcast. Okay.
Thank
Alrighty.
you.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
Have
All
a
right.
good
God
day.
bless.
God bless.
You too. All right. Bye bye.